this whole thing. I mean, there's just so much. There's nothing going on in the NBA right now, really. And this Draymond thing, it's just hanging over the Warriors in a weird way. Let me ask you this: do you think Warriors fans hate Draymond Green now?
I think hate's a strong word. You can't really hate someone who was a crucial part of 4 championships. I think they're maybe tired of his act. That's maybe a better way to put it. But I think he's definitely starting to wear out his welcome a little bit.
Yeah, well, we got him for 4 more years at least, unless he gets traded or unless Steph, his security blanket, decides he doesn't want him around anymore. But it's funny, man. Like, I was on Twitter a bunch and just reading stuff, and like, man, I really think I think, in all my time doing this podcast, I'm not that active on Twitter, although there's a handful of people that I love interacting with. I think there's 3 types of Warriors fans. Warriors fans who are not on Twitter, Warriors fans who are on Twitter, and then Warriors Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be a Warriors fan on Twitter is totally different from Warriors Twitter, right? Because like, it is such Twitter has social media. We know how all that stuff goes, but like, it is such a fascinating place where people really define their identities, it seems like, by their Twitter clout, Warriors clout, NBA clout, and whatnot. But getting away from all that knee-jerk reaction type stuff. I mean, what is your impression of Draymond right now, and where this is all going? For those who didn't know, like, he again talked about the Jordan Poole punch thing. He talked about, like, he hinted at things that Jordan Poole was saying, and that it wasn't an instantaneous thing. It was like building up without actually saying what Jordan Poole was saying. And then I don't know what you got.
Well, my main thing is, like, why bring it up, right? It's like Jordan Poole got traded. You got your new contract, 4 more years. You got what you wanted, basically. The guy is gone. There's no reason to like rehash like all this old stuff, unless he's kind of trying to defend himself. That's kind of like what I'm thinking. Like you don't bring something up, bad things up, unless you're trying to like clear your name or something, right? Like, there's no real benefit to Draymond Green bringing this stuff up, unless he just wants clickbait or something. So like, the only thing that makes sense to me, I have no idea if this is true, is if he feels like he was in the right for punching Jordan Poole. Like, Jordan Poole was talking smack about, I'm just like throwing something out there that, might be the case, but like nothing, sourced or anything. But like, Jordan Poole was like talking about my mom, blah, 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 blah. And it just kind of like, I couldn't take it anymore. And then he like said one last thing about my mom, and I just had to like punch him in the face. It's like, he's trying to, I feel like Draymond Green is, but he doesn't want to be the one to say it, right? He doesn't want to be like, hey, Jordan Poole said this. He kind of like wants Jordan Poole to kind of like bait him into like saying like, hey, you said something really bad about me. Why don't you tell the world what you said? Mm-hmm. Which to me kind of makes sense, because it's like Jordan Poole hasn't really said anything about it. Mm-hmm. So, when you don't talk about something, there's 2 reasons. It's either you were in the wrong, or you're just like what he's trying to portray, which is like, I'm being the mature adult here, and like, I don't need to say anything else. So it really could be anything, but it's just more of an irritation to me, because it's like, now we're talking about it again. It's like, I just want to move on. And like, he's basically just like keeps bringing everybody back to it. But the one thing that kind of like outside of the whole Jordan Poole thing, the thing that actually did catch my attention even more during that kind of like Pat Beverly podcast was he kind of like mentioned that he doesn't have a relationship with Jonathan Kuminga. And that to me is like even more alarming. It's like, I thought that was supposed to be like the guy you're grooming, and yet you have no relationship with him. And so it's like, to me, it's like, I don't know. He's supposed to be kind of like the mature one in the room, kind of supposed to be the leader, trying to be the vet, teaching the young guys the ropes. And he's kind of like saying one thing when doing another.
Yeah. I mean, I've taken a break from, putting out like podcast episodes because I was doing them so often, like game by game and then some. And I just needed a break, right? And I wasted so much breath in the last 10 months or whatever, 9 months about Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, this whole thing, you know. And I've said, I'm glad Jordan Poole's gone. Like, I did not like him as a player. I had seen potential. When you see him, there's one game he had like 11 assists. I was like, okay, here we go. This is who he could be. But the falling down, the no defense. The thing I couldn't stand was like the heat check threes with 20 seconds on the shot clock. The playing to the crowd, right? Yeah, pool party. I'm so glad I don't have to hear pool party anymore, to be honest, because it was like pool party on one end and no defense on the other. And that was always like, you know what I mean? I get it. Fans love, like, you know, the big 3-point shot, and he's fun, you know, like, and he dances. Steph dances. Steph is like one of the all-time greats, you know what I mean? So I'm good with that. But like, and Steph has always tried to play defense, you know, even when Mark Jackson wouldn't let him play against point guards. He wanted to guard point guard, took it as a challenge. Jordan Poole, nope. So, you know, he's gone. I was happy about that. I don't dislike him. I don't know him personally, whatever, but just, I did not like watching his game. But I take his side in this Draymond thing ever since. And again, not trying to rehash the whole season, but it's like, you know, there's been way too many times where I feel like Draymond addresses this and he acts like, you know, I mean, you said it, like, I think he is trying to, in a way, justify it. And the more he talks about it, the more it's going to come out that he's justifying it, because the Warriors, Steph, Kerr, Dunleavy, they chose him. You know what I mean? And if you remember the beginning of last season, after he punched him, it was like Wiggins and Poole got their contracts and then Draymond didn't. And it was like, is Draymond, you know, can someone show that Draymond is not needed anymore? Season went to hell. You need Draymond. Of course, Steph wants Draymond, so he stays. And now we get him for 4 more years. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't, like, you know, like, there's this thing, right? Like, some people think if you're critical of Draymond, you're not a real Warriors fan, right? And I find that to be really sophomoric and really just like stupid, because, you know, if you're blindly supporting somebody for off the court stuff just because he plays for your favorite team, then like I've never been into that. That's silly. So right now, like, I'm flustered with the dude because I've said this, I think, before. To me, he's gone from being this lovable underdog, like our guy who is funny and brash, who is now more of a kind of an obnoxious front runner. You know what I mean? He's friends with Draymond. Steph has his back. He's on TNT. He's got his podcast. Like, he is one of the cool kids. You know what I mean? And he's punching down on younger guys who are just trying to make their way. And like, if and then literally punching down at somebody who, you know, talks back to one of the biggest trash talkers in the league. So I get it. You know, Draymond's trying to say, like, there was something that was said, but like,
yeah, no excuse. Though, I mean,
yeah, if you can say it, say it, right? And like, and all this stuff about like, oh yeah, you know, sports, people getting fights on, you know, like, whatever. Draymond is like in his early mid-30s. You know, like, he is supposed to be a leader of this team. You can't be selectively a leader like that, right? Because you said it yourself, he's cost the Warriors several things. He's given the Warriors a lot, right? Like, you know, the titles, where he's critical to those things, but he's also critical to like some of, you know, the more painful parts of this dynasty, right? Losing in 2016, even though he played great in Game 7. I mean, the LeBron like swipe, which I still think it was not like a suspendable offense, but I know it was the flagrants. But you know, so that's a whole nother lobbying, LeBron lobbying for with Kiki Vandeweghe. But yeah, like, I'll pull for him like crazy, as I always do on the court, but off the court, man, I just can't. I can't listen to him talk about this anymore. And I get it. Pat Beverly brings him on the podcast, can ask him about it. It's ratings, right? But man, just I don't know. It's like it's frustrating stuff, man. You know.
Yeah, it's a classic case to me of winning cures all woes. Uh, as long as Steph's on it, as long as Steph has his back, as long as the Warriors believe that he's instrumental to the core of continuing to pursue winning a championship, it's like they're gonna basically just deal with his personality and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why like when he signed for 4 years, 100 million, I was like, cool. I was like, great, because yes, I know, we all know that the Warriors need him to make any kind of run at the finals, to go deep in the playoffs, be a contender and whatnot. Doesn't mean that we have to love everything, all the chatter that goes on outside. Like, right, he's clapping back at Jordan Poole's dad, and I'm just like, what? We're getting into the really, really, really like dumb periods of the off season, and I mean, maybe not as dumb yet as like when he accidentally put out like something like a photo of his junk on Snapchat way back in the day.
I forgot about that one.
But he helped us get KD, and he helped us get rid of KD, I guess. So it comes with the territory. But I love watching him play. I just at this point I don't enjoy hearing him talk. He seems like he's plays the victim in this, and he's like infallible. You know what I mean?
He kind of reminds me a lot of like Rodman back in the day.
Yeah, but at least Rodman didn't talk like he
not so much of like Rodman talked, but it was more of the like just team distraction. Like Rodman would like just, from what I've heard, just not show up to practice for like 2 weeks and then like be in Vegas or whatever.
Right.
But just like kind of the fact that he was a distraction to the team, but when he did play, he made such a contribution to them winning, and that like everyone was just kind of like willing to look the other way.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Chicago for the three-peat, the second three-peat. And the thing about Rodman was like, everybody's like, oh, signing Dennis Rodman, and all the history with the Pistons and Scottie Pippen, and him knocking Pippen during the playoffs and all this stuff, all the bad blood. But the thing was like he fell in line because Michael Jordan was there, and he kicked the cameraman once on the sideline. I remember that, and he did all this other stuff. Through his, get ejected, through his jersey in the stands, all that jazz. But like at the end of the day, he was always going to fall in line. And, I feel like at the end of the day, Draymond's going to do what he's going to do, like he's cost the Warriors big games, and then regular season games, little games, whatever. But, and when it comes to like the whole Poole thing, where it's like, if Poole was like mouthing off about something consistently, where's the leadership in like Steph pulling him aside, or Kerr or somebody being like, yo, don't talk that, or Iguodala or something like that? I don't know. It's all conjecture. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know these folks. But like, why do you got to let it get to that point? You know what I mean? And again, I've said my theory, which is like, he was just so handcuffed by whatever Poole said. Like, he didn't have a good enough comeback. And I mean, you look at that clip, man, he's surrounded by like, I don't know, Baldwin, Rollins, like just a bunch of kids. And so instinctually he's just saving face. And he was backed into a corner. When you're backed into a corner, you lash out, and he had nothing to say, and he just lashed out with his fist, not excusable at all. I think it's garbage, but I don't know, whatever. That's just, again, completely 100% conjecture. I just want the season to start so they're not talking about this anymore. Although I think, I guess it'd be foolish to think it's not going to get talked about,
but I mean, we're still going to play Washington, twice a year. It's going to come up every time.
Yeah, man. And those photos of like Poole, like in the Washington Wizards uniform, and when people like compare them to the Warriors like media day uniform and stuff, where like he's happy, and then in the Wizards uniform he's just like, he looks like he just got back from World War I, like that 1,000-yard stare, shell shocked. But also I will say, preseason media day photos are 100% different from like, you just got traded. This is your first time in DC. Let's put you in a uniform, ham it up. You know what I mean? Try to act like you're happy to be here. So, but I don't know. That's are you going to miss Jordan Poole?
No, not at all. I was very frustrated with him by the end. It's just like, I couldn't stand his whole act. The way he's just like complaining to the refs and all that. Like, I just like no sympathy for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing I could never figure out. Like, why can't anyone get him to listen and play defense? And also, I was frustrated by the fact that he seemingly had such a long leash compared to guys like Kuminga, let alone Moody, who couldn't even get on the court. You know what I mean? Granted, with Steph out for stretches and Clay needing rest, you have to play Poole, right? But like, it was like, oh, let me dribble off my forehead a couple times and then complain about getting fouled and all that stuff. So, you know, anyway, I'm, oh man, Draymond.